we're going to focus in on Jeremiah and Mecca. So to have you for Will, what do you hope to bring? What do you think you bring?
Yeah, I just think when you look at our offense as a whole, there's just a lot of components that you have to respect, just all across the field. And just spacing, I mean, just when it comes to X's and O's, just spacing out the field, being able to cover all 5 guys down the field is kind of hard, including our running back as well. And so I think there's a lot of things that you have to respect in our offense. We can run the ball, we can throw it down the field to Jeremiah, we can hit a check down to me or to a running back. I just think it's the limitless potential that we have and the amount of different things that we can do is where I would see it being a big weapon in our offense.
Over here to the left, Steve Hellwagon, 24/7 Sports.
Yeah, G, first play out of the box, they go to you down the sideline and you hurdled the guy and everything. Just were you the primary receiver on the first play? It feels like a great call to go, not necessarily to Jeremiah or Mecca or even hand off. Just go through that play, like what was going on there?
Yeah, I think the intention behind that was to set the tone early and kind of almost set a message that we're not here to play conservative offense, that we're going to come right after you guys from the first play, and we'll be at you guys all 4 quarters. And so whenever you start a game like that, I'm a believer if you're I don't condone street fighting, but if you were in a street fight, he who throws the first punch will likely comes out with the win. So our mindset going into that was throw the first punch, and I think we did that to open the game with a gain of 30. And then just the emotion on the sideline, the emotion that I try to bring after that play for a defense, that's just kind of demoralizing. Coming right off the heels, I'm sure the coaches and the players, they had a huge pep talk and speeches going into the game, and they're excited and they're rah-rahing like we're going to kill these guys, and to open up the play and to give up a 30-yard gain like that, and then just to see our whole sideline erupt, that has to be demoralizing for a defense.
Yeah. And when Jeremiah scores, there's a picture of you and he kind of meeting face-to-face in the end zone. Just what is that feeling like? You guys just, in 1 minute, just put it right on.
Yeah. I feel very confident with my abilities to block in space, and with a ball carrier like him, as dynamic of a player he is. I think when he's running behind me, if you look on that play, he was kind of running right behind me there, and so it was just a really exciting moment. I think hopefully we can continue to do those kind of things, and so it was a really exciting moment.
Over here to the right, Kellyanne Stitz, WSYX.
G, you mentioned you guys have come out swinging back-to-back fast starts. The offense is just firing all cylinders. What's been the difference in preparation leading up to the last couple of games?
Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't like to say that there's been anything dramatically different than maybe even the first time we played them. But the goal is to, week by week, you got to upgrade. That's a big motto that we have on this team, that you have to upgrade week by week. That the team that you were last week or the team that you were in week 5 just isn't good enough to compete into the college football playoffs. And so our mindset is to get better and better and better. Call it what it is. Last time we played them, we fell up short. But, here we are, X amount of weeks later, we were able to see who upgraded more. And it looked like it was the Buckeyes. And so the goal is just to continue to upgrade every single week. And then you'll look back and see how far along you've came.
Austin Ward, podcast.
Gee, when you go back to that street fight and throwing the first punch, the fact that the coaching staff trusted you to do that, we all know how much work has gone into your career and getting to this point.
Yeah.
I mean, is it wrong of us to say that might mean a little something more, that you are the person they wanted to start the game with?
I would not necessarily. I mean, in my opinion, not necessarily. I think that the coaches have great trust in all of us that are out there. I think if they didn't have great trust in us, I don't think I would be out there, or I don't think certain guys would be out there if they weren't trusted. And so, I think the job of the coaches is to draw up and put us in positions to be successful. And I'm just a true believer that our coaches do a really good job at that. And so I don't really ask questions on what they tell us to do. I go and I do my job at the highest level, and I try to execute it. And so, I think it's just my job when the ball comes my way to make good things happen. And, you look forward with hopes that it'll continue to keep coming your way.
Rob Muller, Columbus Dispatch.
Yeah, you have to go against JT and Jack. Seems like they just keep improving. What's it like going against them on, say, Tuesdays? Have you seen that improvement? How much of a challenge and helping is it?
Yeah, no, those are 2 electrifying players. I don't think, just being real, I don't think I've seen any defensive ends to their caliber on an opposing team yet this far. And so when you get to go against that every single day, going back to the analogy of fighting, when your sparring partner is that good, when it's time to show up and play on game day, you're going to have confidence in where you're at. And so I just feel like those guys have given me a great amount of confidence going against those guys all throughout camp, throughout the entire season. Sometimes when you get to the games, it's like, dang, I was going against better at practice. And so that's the whole goal, right? Iron and sharpening iron. And we believe one man will sharpen another. And so that's the goal of why we practice so hard and why we do the things we do, even to this point of the year, why we practice so hard still, is to give ourselves that mental confidence over the opponent that I've gone against better opponents, even in practice. And so that's the goal right there.
What are these dudes like off the field? They play opposite on the field. They seem like they're pretty different off the field.
Who, Jack and JT? Yeah, no, they're great guys. I think, there's a bunch. I mean, from top to bottom on our team, there's just a bunch of great characters on our team. All throughout. But when you get on that field, they go into a mode where they're not to be messed with. And so, I'm glad to be on their team.
Robinson, the athletic.
Gee, I think it's about a month ago I asked Will where his confidence as a thrower has grown. He said it's been night and day from January to where he is now.
Yeah.
When he is on time, his footwork's right, like he has been the last 2 weeks, how much more confidence does that feed into the whole offense, knowing he's in sync, the receivers run? How much does that feed everyone?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the same way I'd answer that question is how I'd answer that with any player on our offense, whether that's Will at quarterback or our offensive line or Travion and Quinshawn at running back or myself at tight end or the receiving corps or special teams. It's just, I think our goal is we preach this all week and all year long, is to be at competitive excellence and to make the play when your number is called. And so the more times you're able to do that, the more often you're going to be successful as a team. We have a goal around here to grade out a champion at 80% on the game. And so the more times that you can look back and at the end of a game, you can come in here on a Sunday or the day following a game, you graded out a champion. That's your job, is to take care of your 111th. And so obviously, yes, of course, when we have Will, that when he's firing, it's ultimately going to help our whole team. But that's the kind of the mindset that we have for everybody, is that we all need to be doing our part and doing our job. And ultimately, we have the guys, we have the talent. And so you'll look up at the scoreboard and like where you're at.
Scotty, we'll let you have a couple of Zoom questions if you have them there.
Yes, sir. Our first question is going to come from Michael Cohen. Michael, go ahead.
Gee, when it comes to trying to throw that first punch early in games, there's different ways you could try and do it. To do so vertically in the passing game, aggressively, like where does that come from? Is that a Coach Day message, a Coach Kelly message, somewhere else, just to attack in that way in particular, deep down the field repeatedly?
Yeah, I think that's just our entire identity as an offense. I think, definitely Coach Day and Coach Kelly, they kind of installed that mindset, is that we're not going to hold back. We're not going to hold back. We're going to come after them. And sometimes coming after a defense doesn't always look like taking a 50-yard, 60-yard shot down the field. Sometimes that's just, we're going to run the ball right at you. And so I think that's just kind of the mindset behind it, is that we're going to come right after you guys, despite how it looks. It might be a vertical throw, or it might be running in between the tackles. But the whole message stays the same, is that we're going to be dominant, we're going to be the proactive ones, and we're going to throw the first punch.
Next one's going to come from Dan Hope. Dan, go ahead.
G, you mentioned that you guys need to upgrade every week. How do you guys make sure you keep that same edge you've had, you don't get complacent when you've played as well as you have the last two games?
Yeah, I think that's everybody's job in here, and I think a special emphasis on our coaching staff, that they have a responsibility to make sure from top to bottom that this thing stays like a well-ran, oiled machine, and I think they do a great job at that. One thing that they don't allow us to do around here is get complacent or to be comfortable with wins. Although, Coach Day does a great job. He tells us all the time, to whenever we win these games, he says, enjoy this win for 24 hours. To be able to feel it, it's important to celebrate your victories. But when you come back in here 24 hours later, we're on to the next week. It's too competitive out here. Playing at Ohio State, you can't lose football games. And so the whole goal is to celebrate the victory, but, get your head down and get right back to work. Whether you win or you lose or whatever it looked like last week, to get your head back down and get back to work and show up for Tuesday practice and get ready to roll again.
Our final one from Zoom is going to come from Kurt Bowles. Kurt, go ahead.
Hey, G. I don't know if you even watched the Texas game or much of their tape, but they obviously blew a 16-point lead. And the way you guys are riding high and dominating, do you feel like that gives y'all an edge and confidence in this game? And do you think y'all play a more physical brand of football than Texas?
No, I wouldn't say that we find our confidence in anything that an opponent would do. Like I mentioned a moment ago, we all of our confidence and all of our motivation comes internally. We don't look at an opponent and say, they blew a 16-point lead, or so it's going to give us more confidence that how much more can we do, or we're not going to look at a team that maybe just blew out another team and maybe be a little bit more timid because this is going to be a good team. I think a lot of our motivation and a lot of our drive comes from what happens internally in this building. I don't care what anyone says. You can show it before games. You can take your shirt off. You can try to flex your muscles and look however you want to look. But when you cut on the tape, ultimately what you put in this week and throughout the week of preparation and what you did this whole entire year is what's going to show up on Saturdays. The rah-rah stuff, the false motivation that may come from, what happened week prior to that team, that's all meaningless. What really is important is what did you do that week to prepare to be ready for competitive excellence on Saturday. And so that's the mission around here, is to make sure we're doing our due diligence and we're putting the work in necessary to show up on Saturday to be confident and dominant.
We have time for a few more questions here locally. Nicole Sheeran, WBNS.
Gee, what's it going to be like going up against Quin Ewers, and what was your relationship like with him when he was here?
Yeah, I briefly met. It was good having him here. He was definitely a cool guy. He wasn't here long enough for him and I to be very close. But obviously, when you line up on the other side of the field, there's no friendships in that moment. We're there to win a game, and so I don't think it really makes a difference if who's at quarterback, and I don't think that's something that we're going to be thinking about. But obviously, after the game or it's going to be exciting to play against someone that but ultimately it doesn't really matter who's in their uniform. Our goal is to come after them regardless of who they are.
Over to the left, Noah Weiskopf, the Lantern.
How have you seen Will change both on the field and off the field from the moment you first met him?
Yeah, Will has continuously became more of a confident leader. He's somebody that I've seen take tremendous strides in his faith, in his servant leadership, and it's just been amazing to be a part of and amazing to witness. And I think he's just been continuously growing to be more comfortable and confident. And this is all of 1 year. I mean, I could only imagine if he were to have 2 years here and what he would be able to accomplish. But it's just been amazing to be around him. He's grew to be one of my better friends on this team. And, I'm assuming I'm speaking off all of Buckeye Nation that we're excited to have him.
Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
Gee, you and everyone in your class has had ups and downs, and previous years you've fallen short of your goals. I know you're focused on the moment, but are you guys savoring this, that maybe the disappointments have made this even more special, even within this year?
Yeah. I write on my eye black every game, Romans 8:28, and we know that all things work together for the good of those who love the Lord. And I'm just a firm believer that everything that we have been through as a team, all the hurt, all the hardship, all the tears, all the shame, everything we've been through has ultimately led us to where we are today. And I have confidence in that. And that's why I'm not a big believer in getting too high or getting too low. When I lose games, I try to stay, as even kill as possible. Same way when we win games, because I ultimately just have the faith and the ability to know that the Lord is working all of these things together to make us better. So these moments, I think, through hardship, I believe that makes people closer. And so I think as a result of the things that we have been through, you're looking at a very tight-knit team. And so I'm just excited for what the future holds for us.
You used the word shame, and like losing a game is not a crime; it's just a disappointment.
Yeah.
But is that the kind of pressure that you guys feel here? That when you lose, it's not just a loss; it's shame.
Yeah, it's important around here. It's not, especially at The Ohio State University. From the time that you sign up here, you know exactly what you're getting into, and our coaching staff does a great job of making sure when it's time to, after you go through a whole spring, summer, and off season, that by the time we get to game one, you know exactly what you're up for. And so losing is absolutely unacceptable around here, and there can be a bit of shame to maybe even show yourself in public because of a loss that you've had. But again, my point being is that despite the things that we have been through, I'm a firm believer that there has to be a certain amount of faith, that you have trust that all of these things are working for moments like this. And, even in my, I don't know how this may sound, but even in my personal life, regardless of even what happens in the future from today moving forward, I will continue to keep the faith that that it's working for my good, whether it's making me a better father one day in the future, a better husband one day in the future, however that may look. I believe and have the faith that the Lord is working all things together for the good of those who love him.
Couple more questions. Jeremy Birmingham, the podcast.
Gee, you're starting to go down that road. I was just going to ask about it anyway, because the transformation in you as a person is so, I think, obvious to everyone.
Yeah.
Can you imagine yourself 3 years ago being the person you are now, and now leaving Ohio State whenever it happens, whether it's 1 week or 3 weeks from now? Like, with the legacy that you're leaving here, is it something that you would have ever imagined about yourself?
No, man. No. I think what has taken place in my life and the lives of other people on this team, and I know that I'm here to talk about football, but it's a true testament of the Lord that I serve. He's taken my heart and he's made me new. His word promises that he'll take your heart of stone and make it a heart of flesh, and that he will soften you and making you more into his image when you take on your cross and know him. And I think that's exactly what has taken place in my life. And just when I look back on my journey and the things that I've been through, even that question that you just asked me, it kind of made me a little emotional, just because when you said that, for whatever reason, I just thought back to some years ago when I headbutted that guy from Team Up North, and just the amount of public ridicule that I received from that, and the anger that I received in that. And that's just one thing that was blown up big, but there were other things that were going on that maybe that was a behavior pattern that maybe I had. And I just look at what the Lord has done in my life, and not just myself, but other guys on this team. It's just been amazing, to say the least. And I'm able to stand here confident and say the things that I do because of the revelation that he has given me, that he is true, and that no matter what happens on this field, that there's a place that I can call home with a relationship with him.
I just think it's an interesting juxtaposition of you were on the way to being like the bad example. Right?
Yeah.
It was like, here's a guy with all this opportunity and took this path, and you're
absolutely right.
Took it and changed it, and I just think it's fascinating.
No,
but we don't get to talk to you often, so I just
No, man.
And also, were you suggesting that Will's going to apply for a 6th year?
No, not at all. No, man. No, man. But you're absolutely right. And I say it again, and I'll emphasize it, that it's just a true testament of Christ. And I just encourage everybody that's even whether in the room or watching it, that if you may feel like you're that prodigal, you're that one who's felt like you've strayed away too far, and there's no way that a Lord can forgive this Lord that you're talking about can forgive the things that I've done. I would just want to encourage you that there's no sin that you've committed that can outweigh his justice and outweigh his grace that he has for you and the love that he has for you. And so I think it was intentional, the things that I went through to get to where I am now, to maybe shine that light on somebody else.
Two more from Columbus here. Joey Kaufman, Columbus Dispatch.
Texas's pass defense statistically really good in terms of limiting big plays and getting interceptions. What has stood out about that back end when you watch them on film?
Yeah, I think just for the couple of days I've had to watch them on film, I think top to bottom they look like a pretty good team. It looks like they do a good job all the way around. They look good, but these are the moments that you live for. These are the moments, the reasons why you come here to Ohio State. We preach all the time to, like, when you come here, you play for games where you play against, we call these matchup games where you're almost playing against yourself. And when you're playing against yourself, that means you're not just going to be bigger, you're not just going to be stronger, you're not just going to be faster. And so the question comes down to, well, if I'm not bigger and stronger or faster and we kind of look the same, then what's going to make me win? And I think ultimately the answer to that question is all the intangible things that you work on throughout the season, the things that kind of you can't really see on the outside, the grit that you may have in your heart, the distance that you're willing to go to win the game, the skill that you have acquired throughout the season. All of the intangible things are going to be on display this weekend, and we'll see either them or ourselves who has put more into the intangibles to win these kind of games.
And final questions, Tim May, Letterman Row.
Yeah, as you've been speaking here, I'm just thinking of other teams I've covered in the past, really good teams and stuff. And I had one guy one time tell me there was almost like a hum in the background when you're in this building and stuff of like work being done and things like that. And you have a feel for the spiritual aspect of this team also and stuff. Do you feel that special hum or whatever you want to call it about this team at this moment?
Without a doubt. I said it a few times in the interview post-game, and I'll say it again. There was a moment that we were able to share after coming after that loss against Team Up North. We had a player-led meeting where we were able to hash out some of the differences, what we think is going wrong. And it was just a moment to be very vulnerable with each other as brothers. And there was some frustration that was going on, and ultimately at the end of it, in this room actually, we stood in here, all 100+ guys, and we locked in arms. We put our arms around each other. Actually, when you looked around in that moment, there was actually a few guys that were even tearing up just because of the powerful moment that it was, and we were able to pray together. And I think ever since that moment moving forward, I wouldn't even say it's just from that moment. I've kind of knew all along, but I believe that there's something very special about this team. And I think people are getting ready to witness the special ability that this team has. I've received a lot of ridicule and, coming after losses of just, how people they say things like I miss real football players. I'm tired of these Christian athletes on the field. I miss the real gritty football players. And I think here moving forward, people are going to be able to witness the strength of the Lord that we serve.
Yeah, your dad told me on my podcast, toughest team wins, bottom line.
Yes.
You feel that in your heart too, that the toughest team finally wins these games.
Yes. There's an accumulation of a lot of things. There's being tough, having discipline, not getting, dumb penalties, having great technique. Again, when you get in these matchup games, it's all the intangibles that you can't really see. I'm not just going to walk out in the field and just have confidence that I'm bigger than them and I'm stronger than them like we can in maybe some other games. That's just not how it works. And so it's going to come down to all the intangibles. Am I more disciplined? Am I not going to hold on this play? Am I going to make the catch when the ball comes to me? Am I going to uplift my teammates? Am I going to be positive or am I going to be a cancer on this team? All those little things are all what goes into winning these kind of games. And like you mentioned, toughness. And so we hang our hat on that. And that's the goal, is to go out there and be tough and put all these things together and get a win down in Texas.
Gee, thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Thanks, guys.